Alright, Chapter 9, Beating the Casino's Countermeasures. There's an abundant variety of the casino countermeasures. We cannot discuss all of those in the time of the writing. Furthermore, as players become more resourceful, they'll do so with the casinos change the countermeasures to meet the new situation. Discuss some principal countermeasure should make the player versatile enough to cope with the new development. Shuffle up. I wrote with this first edition I had the mistake with the impression that the casino could stop the system player by frequently reshuffling the deck. Let's consider extreme case in which the game is played one deck and that one deck is reshuffled at the end of each and every deal. Suppose player is alone at the table playing one hand at a time, and the best you could do with it may seem as usual the basic strategy. Against typical rules in Chapter 2, well, you have the edge with about 0.13%. For practical purposes, the game is even. For suppose you now take 6 hands playing with the whole table at once, only the first hand, if the cards are dealt down, you have seen only the whole cards, but the dealer's up card. The situation is the same as before, but at what time to play. Second hand is already seen with the cards of the first hand. If you're playing the strategy of the complete point count for 10 count, you're able to play the hands better than you stuck to basic strategy. Naturally, advantage increases, you will win average rate greater than 13%. Things are better still on the third hand. They are very good indeed by the time they go to get to the sixth and the last hand. You now have at least 13 and probability 18 or 20 cards. You have split some of the early hands and figure could run much higher. Your advantage due to the improvements of playing strategy, roughly 1%. This is about the same as the casino's edge of the baccarat, but it can make it a big bet in 6 hand every deal. In fact, make a small bet on first hand, a little larger be on the second, and the largest bet would be able on the last hands. Alright, sitting in the last seat with a crowded table, you can make a big bet at all times. Generally see the most of the cards played ahead of you with the cards dealt face up as you've seen in the Puerto Rico number of the Nevada games. You see plenty of cards in there. In fact, at every seat you can see at least player's whole card for an edge of 0.5% or more. In a casino where the cards are dealt face down, it may not be easy to see most of the cards before you turn. In fact, some casinos now use shills and have them conceal their cards. The dealer rakes the cards without ever showing them. You can prevent the shills from playing, making sure that everyone's cards by filling the table with your cooperative friends first. They can play the basic strategy and have them break even if nothing else. Dealer who counts. After Beat the Dealer became the national bestseller with a shovel of thousands people that read it, and some casinos had their employees read it, and some of the dealers who were taught to count. There were two ideas behind this. The first, the dealers could help spot the count players more than on this later. Secondly, the dealers could shuffle up when the deck went good, but kept dealing it when it went bad, if it went bad. Suppose if the dealer does this, what do you do? The only solution I found, besides looking up for another better game, is to sit in the last seat heavily on the first deal with the hope that we win your 1% likely. Otherwise, if you pull ahead, the odds of the favor you might not be tremendously. Your dealer may give up the tactic. Strike when the deck is hot. When you have just seen that the dealers can shuffle away with the good cards, keep the play with the bad cards, you can do very much of the same thing. Suppose you're about to enter the game. Stop, do not sit down, get your count first. Be sure you have the sum of the casino chips in your hand. Now you wait until the count is good, then pull up the seat and toss your large bet down. This is the way you always start your game. With a good deck, you're sticking with the deck is hot. This is a very nice way to pick up extra change when you're when you're on your way through the hotel's gaming area. The dealer generally does not reshuffle on you. He does. Now, yet at the first bets, yours is going to turn out to be large. Punishing fakes. Many dealers reshuffle when you increase your bet. A few of them are legitimate 10 counters to know that the deck has gone good. Most of them are not. They just reshuffle to save against their system players. Many of the ones I've played against are out of and out fakes. This is they pretend either to the players or to the pit boss that they can count tens or non-tens when they bid. Big bet goes out, they reshuffle, and actually they have no idea what the count is. When you find a fake, stay with him. He is the money in the bank. Here is what you do. You start making a big bet, 3 to 5 units. If the deck goes bad, increase your bet. When he reshuffles, pull back the extra amount and the deck stays neutral or good. Keep your bet the same. The result is the dealer shuffled away the bad deck, and you always play against an average good decks, and you have a consistent advantage of probable win. Multi-decks. There has been some increase in the numbers of blackjack games played with either 2 or 4 decks. Some of the casinos believe that it's much more difficult to count several decks. You'll find it a little more work, but if you are fairly good with one deck, you shouldn't have much trouble. The most serious drawback to 2 or 4 decks and the advantage of the various values of high-low indexes of the 10-count ratio are not quite as large. They are roughly 0.4% less with 2 decks, 0.5% less than 4 decks. Also, deviations in normal deck composition are smaller, so the somewhat favorable situations one that occurs the less favorable if the casino were reshuffled 2 or even 4 decks after every deal. Even sitting on the 6th seat wouldn't help, but the casino won't do this. The game will slow down and such a crawl that the board players would keep drifting away. Multiple decks have one big advantage for the player who strikes when the decks are hot, and the 2 decks for the better 4 decks are good. They stood a good much longer, so when you sit down in a good situation, big bet, the things are likely to stay good for a while to partially camouflage your actions. Rules changed. Gambling World electrified April 1st, 1964. Las Vegas Resort Hotel Association announced that the rules of blackjack were being changed. This was for the first time in the history of the rules of the major casino gambling game had been significantly altered. The rules changes were made to combat the winning blackjack system, primarily the 10-count, introduced the first edition and beat the dealer. In this word, the Gabrielle Voggelita, spokesman of the Las Vegas Resort Hotel Association. In the last 15 years, there hasn't been one plane landed without at least one person in possession of the system. This guy Thorp is the first in Las Vegas history to have the system that works. Specific rules changed for the forbade splitting aces, restricted doubling down on total hards on hard 11 only. As you see in Table 9.1, the effect of the reduce the basic strategy player's advantage by roughly 1%. The reduction, somewhat larger favorable situation, somewhat smaller unfavorable one situation, which is an 10% advantage. For example, the reduce less than 9%. Clearly, the point count 10 count method will still uncover favorable situation, but there won't be quite as many. There won't be quite as good. How do the rules change affect the system's players? The good players went right back the next day, but then continued winning. True, the rate of the winning had cut somewhat, but it wasn't enough to cheer up the casinos. Against the casinos' unfavorable rules, betting scales should be adjusted downward. Perhaps simplest method to decrease all large bets by 1 unit. Alternatively, if you use the point count system without strategy refinement, you can simply decrease the initial count by 1 per deck and use, for example, a 2-deck game with poor rules such played in Puerto Rico in the same spots as in some spots in Nevada. Start with a point control of -2 instead of 0. Then play precisely as before. So you'd have a player's hands in your basic old strategy, basic new Las Vegas strategy. Casino operators have read as far as Chapter 5, 10 count. They had not read Chapter 8, rules variation, will explain how the count or their rule chart and changes further. I predicted that I wrote the whole first edition 2 years earlier. That the rules change would be tried and they would not be effective, but the casino hadn't yet read as that far yet. It took about 2 or 3 weeks for the throw of the sponge go back to the old rules. Was the trouble of a sharp young journalist named Jude Waninsky explained it very clear in a bylined article in the National Observer. Overnight play at Las Vegas blackjack tables fell off. In fact, play at a gambling table that declines flow of tourists into the city. Diminished casino employees who come in income depends on large part on the number of the tips they received. They began screaming that the new blackjack rules were bane to the industry. First one casino, another quietly scuttled the new rules. By last week, Las Vegas gamblers threw within the towel. They admitted that they rather have all their business back, even if it meant putting up with the system players. Rule variation. In light of the attempted Nevada rule change with the considerable variable blackjacks played throughout the world, readers should be prepared to estimate the effect of the deviation. Typical rule of the Chapter 2 that you can do with this consulting table 9.2. The basic strategy adds 0.12% of the player and add subtract with the correction indicated by the table for each rule variation being used. Final result of the overall player is advantages. Positive of the casino is negative. At various points of the book, they discuss the variation. England, Puerto Rico, Nevada. One rule which apparently peculiar to the Far East has not been considered is called surrender. In Far East, particularly in Morocco, Portuguese colony with a hydrofolio ride from Hong Kong and a Melina, blackjack rules are like those of Chapter 2, except the doubling down is permitted only with a 2-card total of 11, but the total player is offered additional strategy. Option of surrender. At the time and lift, the dealer is showing that an ace, the player may surrender his hand. retaining one half of the amount of his bet, losing the other half. Braun estimates the best play surrender gains about 15% of the player. This is more offset by players lost by about 0.8% of the restriction doubling down. Alright, camouflage. The casino has become painfully aware of the thousands of the basic strategy of the players who do not lose money. Even worse, they are infested with hundreds of good ones. 10 count players carry off money with the good players, particularly have the problem with becoming known with the casinos to find shuffle up the dealer hiding cards. Sometimes they are barred, asked to leave the casino, or they run into heavy cheating, sometimes undisguised. Clearly, if you want to lift alone to play a good game of blackjack, you must disguise your play. First, you do not start beginning every fresh decks with a small bet. With one deck games, typical rules that I have the slight edge of the top, I get the best result to get betting large on the top of the deck almost half the time. Of course, it's a glimpse of burn and bottom card. You can choose the times more effectively. Dealers think that if he's going to bet big off the top of the deck, shuffle up is a waste of time. In the casino with two or more dealers, less favorable rules, we ought to bet big off the top much less frequently. Some of your bets are important. I play with against the dealers, thought with the natural to bet a $5 chip or a $25 chip, but not natural, carefully 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, depending on the deal. So I bet $5 except when things are moderate good. Then I bet $25 Puerto Rico. I bet $1 while waiting, $50 all favorable situations since nothing bothered them. Must learn what is the best situation, a ratio of 1 to 5 or even 1 to 3, and the bet size might be good betting beginning when you explore the situation. Ratio of 1 to 2 is acceptable. Against one deck, as typical rules, ratio 1 to 1 is acceptable. All bets for the same. And if you sit 5th and 6th seat at a full table, you can see most of the cards before your turn. Disguises. As a result of the intense publicity of the wide distribution of my picture, I had lately found it nearly impossible to get a reasonable game of last resort. I grew a beard for the summer and got used to the contact lenses that I spent with the 4 days last Las Vegas, Reno, and Lake Tahoe. In the beginning, I wore a full beard. My usual glasses were replaced with the contact lenses, swept around sunglasses. After I had 1 2 days, Las Vegas players with beards began to receive most unfriendly treatment. The two of the companions I went on, Reno and Lake Tahoe, walked away with crowded casino with the North Shore Lake Tahoe fame, the gangland connection. There were no seats at the blackjack table. The boss looked up, and the insufferable bearded apparition, his jaw dropped, and he called in. The dealers opened over the table, and I sat down. Too Tough trotted up to me and plopped down on either side of me. My companions, I never traveled alone in Nevada, thought I was about to be hurled from a casino. The Two Toughs, the dealer and I played on the complete silence for 10 minutes, so when I absolutely sure that the dealer was cheat, I walked away. The Two Toughs and immediately trotted off. The dealer closed up the table, and I went off waiting for the next problem. A minute later, all was as before. The throngs of happy, fun-loving tourists went out on their merry-making. No one of them had been least bit aware of little drama that had been taken before them. It looked like the bearded players were through, but it had taken me 4 weeks to grow a beard, and I was determined to use it one more time. After further adventures, we arrived in Reno. At about 3 a.m., I began to play a club downtown Reno, about 50, 60 miles from the scene of the Tahoe, and the club was well known of the fair rules dealing down on the last card. I also collect a few $100s from the club whenever I am in Reno. Whatever befalls elsewhere, a club does not seem to be in with other owners. In particular, I thought it wouldn't not have heard in advance of the beard threat. Alright. My table was full, but there was no opportunity at the end of the play. I knew with the vast experience of the casino wouldn't allow them. And anyhow, I played a betting of 5 to 25, the maximum size spend with the bets I felt would be tolerated once steadily with the casino pile applied up liberally with the strong drinks. I gave the casino people the impression that I was careless, woozy, and bad player. Doubling down 5, ridiculous, winning 2, for the which you can do about luck like that, but I will run out and it will bound 2. Both the cards ran. Well, instead of winning as expected with the $25 to $75 an hour, I piled up $300 so the casino personally paraded by one after another. They scrutinized me and watched me play. They examined my face. At the end of the hour, they all examined me, and they had enough. Hostile brunette pit boss, same as the one who saw me practice for 8 hours in the same club when I was first played in Reno. See Chapter 5. Now took over as dealer. She smiled pleasantly. She dealt the first hand blackjack to herself. I was watching for the second DLC, Chapter 10. I caught it, and I got up and purring cattily. I invited me to stay and play. During the previous hour of playing, I had a single dealer at the casino leave the dealers at one table intermittently, but the first one could not cheat. She was a young, blonde, lonely, emotional, troubled, in search of a man. We glimpsed at a stack of $100 bills in my wallet and became exceedingly friendly. She disappointed, upset, too abruptly parted her fish. The blonde told the wonderful fellow that I hated beards, everything in the wood would be all right, that if I shaved it off. So it occurred to me that if I could later make the perfect test of my disguise. The next evening I shaved off the ragged full-length beard. The only clue to my having had in its unusual paleness about certain parts of my face. Instead of careless, casual clothes, I now wore a suit, and I removed the sweep around some glass, wore only contact lenses to comb my hair somewhat differently. I ready for the test. I called for my companion to never see me, and beard. When I answered for the door, he did not recognize me. Instead of the aging, unkempt man of 45, I was spring, crew-cut, young, executive 25, out of the evening out of the town. When 3 a.m. approached, I had left the game and I was in and went into the casino where the blonde dealt. She was at the same table. There was one vacant seat. I sat down and began to play. There was no glimmer of recognizing on her face. I again bet $5 to $25 with chips. I began carefully purchased the advance for the cashier fare with a few carefully preserved small bills with no evidence of the previously evening stacks of hundreds to give the dealer a clue. I did not talk. I only gestured, not too unusual behavior pattern. While the waitress came to ply me with drinks, I whispered milk. The dealer could not hear my voice, and after 2 milks, waitress did not bother me. So far, my disguise meme seemed to work perfectly, but chance soon put in a real test. The cards ran well again. I began to pile up winnings almost at the same rate at the evening before. Next to the player on my left, I was in the 5th seat, my usual choice, since the casino accepted the system of the players to be the 6th seat turned out to be the cheat. He would pile the carelessly layout, then he would check the whole card, and then he would try to sneak on some extra silver dollars on the layout if he had thought they had a good hand. If he had thought he had a poor hand, he would try to remove some of his bet. Dealer did not know what to do. The same parade of the casino personnel filed examined my chest, examined the cheat. When the boss watched him to play a few minutes, and he was such a bad player, even though he was cheating, he was barely breaking even. They gave orders to leave them alone. Both the cheat and I had been carefully scrutinized by the same gang and stayed the previous night, and no one recognized me. But after an hour and another $300 patience wore thin, and as one night before the cheating dealer came in, I left disguise to work. There are a lot of troubles, but they can be fun too. Alright, automatic blackjack machines. One of the most interesting casino countermeasures is reduced introduction with the automatic electronic blackjack machines to replace the dealers. Machines have been or being tried at several casinos with the text advisors advertisement in pages 173-8 to give the details. Let's use our method to analyze the form automatic blackjack presented in this ad. Notice the first machine that deals one deck game to reshuffle with every deal. This goes a long way toward negating the games of card counting. First impulsive to sit with the last seat with the use of the cards we see to get an edge, explaining 124 and 126. But there are only 4 seats, and the advantage gained with a considerably less improbability of a third to 0.5%. Next of the thing to notice if the rules differ from our typical rule for doubling down is restricted to hard totals of 10 and 11. Secondly, pair splitting is not allowed. Both restriction on players increase for the house edge of the table to 9-2, the lost due. Non-pair splitting and 46%, 0.46%, no doubling down on hard 9 and hard 8. Soft totals of the cost of 0.14%, 0 plus 1.14%, or 0.28%. There's only 0.2% loss, and because the dealer hits soft 17. Thus, usual basic strategy player advantages of 13 hundredths of a percent seems to be reduced from 46 hundredths plus 28 hundredths plus 20 hundred plus 94 hundredths of a percent for the net casino edge of 0.81 hundredths of a percent. Alright, automatic blackjack. With a gaming machine manufactured in the state of Nevada, automatic blackjack electrically operated with a full stimulated with a 52-card deck, automatically shuffled and dealt. Play is initiated upon deposition of the coins, and any and all the denomination coins have the silver dollars limitation, 5 coins of denomination. Sequence of the game is in accord with all standing blackjacks of 21 games. The player has the option of hitting and standing with the hand of a score dealt. All scores are numerically identically indicated immediately. The dealer will continue to draw hand cards automatically until they have the score 17 or more of the time score of the player as compared with the dealer payoff. They automatically made accordingly to the score. Moment of the bet made, the player makes blackjack. He receives double his or original bet instead of the usual 1 1/2 paid off. Automatic blackjack is fully approved. Nevada Gaming Commission. All card dealing is absolutely uncontrolled and based upon chance. Any player, after receiving 2 or more cards showing having a 10 or 11, may elect to double down. Simple press the yellow flashing light button, increase your bet. Same denomination, up to double your original bet. Press hit button. You will receive the 1 card to complete your hand. Instructions: insert card, make bet, hit or stand when button lights up. Automatic stand for 10-second period. Dealer stands for 17 over. Must hit with soft 17. Aces count 11. Blackjack pays double the push and push pays money back. Flashing light indicates 10 or 11. Press button immediately increases your bet card only when they deal to your hand. Numerical score supersedes card display. All coins projected when game is in progress. Good luck. Nevada Electronics Incorporated. Alright, notice that the player sitting in the 4th seat would ordinarily have an occasional profitable insurance to provide. He knew the whole cards at least one of the other 3 people at the table. The player must see of at least 5 cards complete deck before the possibility of the ratio between 2.0 profitable insurance bet with the 2-player whole card, the dealer up card with the tuition, but with a little advantage does not apply for the year if the insurance is not limited. There's one more rule: chain with the player receive the blackjack, the dealer does not, but it does not. The ad does not say this. What presumes it means it. He wins twice the original bet instead of the unusual 1 1/2 times. Clearly, this helps the player. How much? The chance of one deck game with a specified player with a blackjack and the dealer will now have 4.649% of the player now wins the extra 50% each time this happens. So for the net game with the player due, the rule is 50% times 4.6449% or 2.322%. And so for the player game with a basic strategy with increase that is 81.1% to positive 1.51%. This tiny ring of the profit to each and every hand, so the basic strategy should make the steady profit with one drawback of the fact the machines accept bets only above the total of $8.75 per hand, but 100 hands per hour, one should accept the average rate of $8.75 times 100 at 1.51% as over $13 per hour. That reproduces picked up in Reno with Lake Tahoe. With the recent information in Las Vegas is for the machines that are played 1.5 to the 1 blackjack. Further, this is remember the nearest quarter against the player. For the example, the 25-cent bet received only 25 cents in natural now, 37.5 cents, but at 50% receives 75 cents of the natural. Clearly, the player should only bet multiples of 50 against such for the machine, even if the edge is not unfavorable at 81.81%. Warning: machines wear out, becoming defective. Also, unscrupulously person could set the automatic blackjack machine to cheat. Before I would play the machine, I would tally 1,000 to show the dealt cards appropriately proportionate each time the card were being dealt. I would further keep track of the percentage gain of the player experience of 1,000 hands. You're betting off doing this because by watching them playing. Alright, the paper route technique question I have asked most often: can a player use your system and still win in Nevada after all of the publicity renders success? One of the best ways to do this, you can go on winning in Nevada. Here the technique, which is very effective. Before you begin session with playing the SF side, take an amount equal with about 5 large bets, perhaps 20 to 25 units. Play until they either lose the amount or win the amount. Do not show the 10, 20 to 25 units at once, but instead buy chips from it as required. If you play for an hour, stop anyhow. The point is that if you play no more than an hour, you are less likely to attract attention. Remember, you lose no more than 20 to 25 units in a session. No one cheating dealer can ruin you. If you win no more than 20 to 25 units, you are likely to be acted against as a possible threat because your winnings He was just a little lucky this time. We'll get him the next time. Remember the dealers. Return the dealers. Remember that your dealer. Return to the dealers you do well against. Avoid dealers you lose up. Avoiding the dealers you lose up to 20-25% too. This way you never get cheated twice by the same dealer. May lose legitimately, then avoid an honest dealer. Then can be helped. This can't be helped. The method, oversimplified illustration principle, is appropriate modification of your situation. After the session you should go on another casino, whereas using the method, stroll over the casino collecting money. Much newsboys for a paper route goes from door to door. Chapter 10, How to Spot Cheating.